Hello, listeners, and welcome to a new episode of Second Take Cinema, coming at you from the glorious Impala Films headquarters in sunny Southend-on-Sea. As always, I am your host, Jamie Evans, joined, as always, by the one, the only, Rory Jocelyn. Woo, it's me. So earlier in this season, we did the opening film of the ill-fated DCEU, the DC Extended Universe. I thought it would be interesting to now do the opening film in the, let's be honest, much better faring. Whether they're good or not is not the question, but in terms of financial success, they've done much better. The MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, today we are giving a second take to Iron Man. That's right, we're going back to ye old year of 2008 to review Iron Man, a Marvel film made before Disney owned them. One of the few, there's only two that were made before Disney bought them.
This and the Hulk, isn't it?
Yeah, it's this and the Hulk, and boy, can you tell. You can tell when Disney turned up. We'll talk about it later.
Is that the Edward Norton Hulk, or is that...
Yeah, the Edward Norton one, yeah. The Incredible Hulk. And then Disney bought them, and Iron Man 2 came out, and
it
well,
wasn't
we'll
so
get
incredible
there.
anymore.
We'll get there. The Incredible Hulk is not incredible. The Incredible Hulk is not a great film. This movie was made in 2008. It is directed by Jon Favreau. This was the first film I remember seeing Jon Favreau direct. Until then, I only knew Jon Favreau as Pete from Friends.
Yes.
Am I the ultimate fighting champion? I learned something from every one of those failures, just like I learned from this fight not to let a guy stand on my neck.
Yeah.
You didn't know that anyway?
Yes.
Jon Favreau's gone on to be like a real Disney guy, hasn't he? He did several MCU films, as in directed them.
Yeah.
He has appeared in several more as his character Happy Hogan. He's Tony Stark's bodyguard in this.
Oh, yeah, he was, yeah.
Yeah. He's in several of the MCUs, not just the Iron Mans.
Right.
He's in a couple of the Spider-Men as well.
Spider-Man's.
Spider-Man's. Why is it Spider-Man? It's not his last name.
Is it Iron Men?
Iron Man.
Or Iron Man's?
He's not Phil Ironman. He's an Iron Man.
But he's a Man of Steel.
He also directed the live-action Jungle Book remake. I believe he did the live-action Lion King remake as well, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And he's done a lot of the Star Wars TV shows as well, like Mandalorian and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm fairly certain he had a lot to do with the first season of Mandalorian, if not any of the following, but certainly some of the direction in the first season of Mandalorian is incredible.
Right.
Some of the artwork as well. It's some of the artwork for like the post credits. It does actual like concept art for the for the credit sequences for the episode you've just watched. Some of those I'm like, dude, I'd have that as a poster on my wall. That's incredible.
Yeah.
One of the things he did really well. There's an episode which is all basically on a green planet.
Okay.
And it's just like, it's one of those typical stories where sci-fi goes and it's just basic villagers from, like, that would be in medieval times almost. They've got no real techno advantage.
Does Mando say, "This here is my boomstick"?
Yeah, exactly. He does, yes. This is my boomstick. But someone finds, them chicken walkers from Star Wars Return of the Jedi? The ones that the bear people kill. They're called chicken walkers or ATSTs.
Oh, AT-ATs?
No, the AT-ATs are the ones with the forelegs that get taken down on Hoth in the US. Then you've got ATSTs, which are called chicken walkers.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah, it's just a square box with 2 chicken legs that walks, and it has, 2 guns on the front.
So that's that sort of thing Eggman would build in a Sonic game.
Yeah, it's a bit shit. But what they did... So here's the thing. They came about in Return of the Jedi so that the Ewoks, the little bear people, had a villain that they could fight and destroy. So it unfortunately, that's something about that film which is a lot more kiddie.
Yeah.
They were never seen as a real threat, It's like, oh my god, it's a machine, but that's about as far as the danger went. In this episode, they managed to make that genuinely terrifying.
Okay.
And rather than being an army of them, there's only one, and it's knackered. But because the towns, the villagers have nothing, you get this one chicken walker and they're being attacked by these pirates that have the chicken walker. As it's walking through, the thing they do well is they illuminate the interior. It's got these 2 eyes on the front of the box. They illuminate that with different colours, and when it gets set on fire, it's literally firing out of those eyeballs, out of those eye sockets, as it's still manoeuvring. And they do that in the middle of the mist, in the mid of night, and you're like, that is the right way to do a horror. Yeah. So I have, just from that episode alone, I was like, Jon Favreau knows his shit.
Yeah, Favreau seems like a good guy. He used to host a show called Dinner for Five as well, where he'd have fellow creatives come round his house for dinner, and they'd literally just sit and talk. And there's an episode of it I really like. You can get it for free on YouTube. And it's Jon Favreau, Rob Zombie, Bruce Campbell, and Roger Corman, and then for some reason Faison Love. I'm pretty sure that there was another horror-related guest who dropped out last minute.
Faison Love?
A comedian. See, the others are all horror directors, and then this random comedian who I'm fairly certain he must be like Favreau's friend who filled in last minute because I don't know, John Carpenter or someone had to pull out.
I've never even heard
something.
of him. But yeah.
No. But it's a fairly interesting conversation. You get to hear a lot about Rob Zombie's struggle as a indie filmmaker. You get to hear a lot about how they got Evil Dead funded in it.
Nice.
And you get to hear, Roger Corman is obviously an absolute legend of the industry.
Yeah.
And you get to hear him talk a lot about how to run a low budget indie studio.
Nice.
I probably learned more lessons watching that than I did in about a whole year at uni, probably. Anyway. So this is obviously the first film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe directed by Jon Favreau, as I said, starring Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, with Terrence Howard, Jeff Bridges, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Leslie Bibb appearing. It is obviously based on the Marvel comic book Iron Man, the Invincible Iron Man, created by Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, Don Heck, and Jack Kirby. It's nice to see people getting credit other than just Stan Lee.
Yeah, because he famously steals credits, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. Although I don't want to speak ill of him because the poor guy's dead now. Did you spot his cameo in this?
Well, it wasn't a cameo. He was right up front and centre.
When they think he's Hugh Hefner, don't they?
Yeah.
He's like Evening Hef, and he just kind of turns on this movie was made for a budget of $130 million.
So a little bit higher than some of the other ones.
Yeah, but they were not expecting it to be a massive success, bear in mind, because Iron Man was considered...
I'm sorry, you don't throw $130 million at something going, it's probably not going to be a big success.
No, but hear me out. This film, Iron Man is one of Marvel's B team.
Yes.
At least he was until this
film. Well, they
film.
lost the A-team to Fox, didn't they? Because they licensed
Fox
the rights
and Sony. Because Sony got Spider-Man.
Sony got
and
Spider-Man.
Fox got X-Men and Fantastic Four.
That's right, yeah. Which
and
are their
Universal got Hulk.
Yes.
That is why there's been no solo Hulk film since Incredible Hulk.
Yeah,
because Universal actually owned the rights to solo Hulk.
Yeah, so that was it. Their contract is only for solo Hulk movies, though.
Yeah,
so
they
Hulk
can still
be
put
in
the
other
Avengers.
things.
Yeah. So they gave it $130 million. But it wasn't just that, because fair enough, they were probably willing to take that chance. Then you've got to realise this came up in 2008 is a stacked year for films. Listen to what else came out in 2008. The Dark Knight.
Oh, that's best.
WALL-E, one of the biggest Pixar movies of all time.
Yeah, it's a shit second half, though.
I've never seen it, but it did gangbusters at the box office.
Yeah.
And you'll laugh, because I know this is the type of film you hate, but it did very well. Mamma Mia. They were all 2008. So this was a stacked year. I don't think anyone quite thought Iron Man was going to be as big as it was. It made $585.8 million.
So that's a success?
That's a big success.
Well, you say that, but like, Some of these films are like, we made it for 44 million, it made 180 million, it was a failure. You're like,
Oh,
how?
no, don't get me wrong. Today, Marvel would consider that a failure because their films now make billions.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's have a look here. It was the third highest opening weekend of the year. I'm not going to tell you what films beat it because that'll ruin the quiz we're about to do.
No.
It grossed $35.2 million on its first day, which at the time was the 13th biggest opening day of all time.
Right.
It had the second best premiere ever for a non-sequel, beaten only by the first of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films. Yeah. And the fourth biggest opening ever for a superhero film at the time. It got 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That is a high score.
Yeah, the website's critical consensus reads, powered by Robert Downey Jr.'s vibrant charm, Iron Man turbocharges the superhero genre with a deft intelligence and infectious sense of fun. Remember, we were not burnt out on superhero films at this point. Among the major... I'm going to talk about that, though, because watching this film in 2023, I saw it with new eyes, sort of thing.
All right.
Among major trade journals, Todd McCarthy of Variety called the film an expansively entertaining special effects extravaganza with fresh energy and stylistic polish, whilst Kirk Honeycutt of The Hollywood Reporter praised the film, whilst nonetheless finding disappointment in a climatic battle between different Iron Man prototypes. How did Tony's nemesis learn how to use the suit? Yeah, fair play. In one of the first major daily newspaper reviews, Frank Lovice of Newsday lauded the film's emotional truth, pitch-perfect casting, and plausibly rendered super science that made it faithful to the source material whilst updating it, and recognizing what made that material so enduring isn't just the high-tech cool of a man in a metal suit, but the human condition that got him there.
Yep.
Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave it 4 out of 4 stars, praising Robert Downey Jr.'s performance and stating at the end of the day it's Robert Downey Jr. who powers the liftoff, separating this from other super... To be fair, I don't think you will find any reviews that say Downey Jr. was bad in this film. Look, honestly, I'd mean this with no hyperbole. Downey Jr. as Iron Man is one of the greatest casting decisions of all time. Yeah. It's literally up there with Heath Ledger as the Joker. Like, he was...
Same year as well.
Yeah, he was to the point where I honestly cannot think of another actor that could possibly play Iron Man. Who's working today? I've seen Downey Jr.'s audition tape for Iron Man, and like the minute he walks into the room, none of the other actors have got a chance. He walks in and he is Tony Stark. The only other person who has been touted as possibly being
Harry Styles?
No. When they did Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which obviously goes to a bunch of multiverses, there was a theory that they were going to do an alternate Iron Man as well, and because they do a few alternate heroes, they do Captain Britain instead of Captain America.
Well, I mean, he's a real superhero as well.
Yeah, Captain Britain is, but they made it a woman. And there was a rumour that they were going to do a version of Iron Man from the comics called the Superior Iron Man. So the main canon one is the Invincible Iron Man, but there's one called Superior Iron Man who I think is a bit more of an anti-hero.
I was going to say, because Invincible is better than Superior.
Yeah, I think he's an anti-hero, and apparently it isn't confirmed, but that was very nearly, they just didn't quite ink the deal, that was very nearly Tom Cruise. Apparently.
As Iron Man?
As the superior Iron Man, so not main Iron Man.
Oh, the
anti-hero. To be honest, of all the actors in the world today, if I was going to have to see someone else do an alternate Iron Man, I think Tom Cruise ain't a bad shout.
Well, he's got the charisma. That's what you need. You need someone with immediate off-the-screen popping charisma.
The problem with Tom Cruise that you don't have with Downey Jr., and I'm not one of these people personally, I'm speaking on behalf of other people now, some people find Cruise creepy. Yeah. I think because of the Scientology connections.
Right.
I'm not sure, but I know some people have said they actually find something really off-putting about him. And fun fact...
if he's meant to be an anti-hero version, that might work in his advantage.
Yeah. Fun fact, when Christian Bale played Patrick Bateman in American Psycho, he based the performance off of Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Saying that when Tom Cruise smiles... the smile never touches his eyes.
See, I don't think that. Okay, I mean that's his view. Obviously, why he did what he did, but
Yeah.
I've never noticed Tom Cruise looking creepy. Like unless he was particularly playing a creep.
Neither did I.
You know, he was obviously a bit creepy in things like Tropic Thunder, but that was by design.
Yeah. Now there were a couple of negative reviews. It's not all positives. David Denby of The New Yorker gave a negative review claiming...
David Denby.
Yeah.
That's a New Yorker name.
It is, isn't it? New York.
New York.
He gave it a negative review claiming a slightly depressed, going through the motions feel to the entire show. Gwyneth Paltrow widening her eyes and palpitating, can't do much with an antique role as Stark's girl Friday, who loves him but can't say so.
But also, palpitating.
Yeah. Terrence, I know, they love these words, don't they?
Jesus. By the way, I did go to Harvard, palpitating.
Yeah. I write for The New Yorker, it's not the Mansfield Chad.
Yeah, I know, innit? Jesus Christ.
Terrence Howard, playing a military man who chases around after Stark, looks dispirited and taken for granted. We'll get into Terrence Howard later, because there's a bit of a drama there.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
IGN's Todd Gilchrist recognised Downey as the best thing in a film that functions on autopilot, providing requisite story developments and character details to fill in this default origin story, whilst the actors successfully breathe life into their otherwise conventional roles.
Default origin story. I mean, what's default about it other than the fact that it's an origin story? Like, if you were to go, right, we're going to do a film, it's the start of a new, like, wave of this character. Yeah. It's the, you know, therefore we're dealing with the origins of the character.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think kidnapped by terrorists in the Middle East is what I'd consider default.
No.
At this point, something like Batman's origins. My parents were murdered when I was 8 and now I'm angry. That's default origin story.
Yeah. I agree, sort of.
Like, being kidnapped by terrorists and tortured is not default origin story for superheroes.
No. But before we get into that, it's time for this episode's installment of Let's Quiz Rostifer.
Yay!
And similar to an episode we recorded earlier today, we are doing top 10 box office again.
Yeah.
In 2008, Iron Man was the 8th highest grossing movie of the year.
Iron Man, number 8.
Now, if that doesn't show you inflation, I don't know what does. Because Kramer vs. Kramer in 1979 was it was just over 100 million, wasn't it?
Something like that, yeah.
And that was number 1.
Yeah.
Iron Man is in 8th place and made $500 million. That shows you
inflation.
How big the inflation is.
Wow.
So, here we go. What do you think was the 10th? This is probably one of the hardest ones on the list to get. What do you think was the 10th highest grossing movie of 2008? And you can't use the excuse you weren't alive this time because you were well alive. You were young, you were carefree, paying attention to the media.
I was 22.
Exactly. Ooh, 22.
I wasn't paying attention to the media, I was fucking.
Yeah, right. Go on.
There was a time, and to be fair, I was in Japan for some of it.
Japan has films.
Yeah, but not Iron Man.
They loved Iron Man in Japan.
Yeah, I know.
Reminds them of Kamen Rider.
Iron Man in Japan.
And
that's
Gundam.
a sequel they should have made. Anyway, so number 10.
Yeah.
It's going to be that Jason, like, I Want to Kill Jason Carter or whatever the fuck it's called.
What?
There's that series of, I don't know, there was a bunch of pleb name, like, insert American pleb name here, movies in the 2000s, and it was like, there was one which is I Want to Kill Jack Carter or some shit, and then there was...
Are you on about John Carter?
Same difference.
Of Mars?
Well, there's that. There's one which they did, which was like this Percy
Jackson and the Lightning Thief.
Yeah. I don't watch any of this crap.
It's none of them.
Right.
It's based on a very old book, a classic.
Lion Witch of the Wardrobe 2?
Yeah. Go on, you must know the name of it.
Dark of the Moon.
No. The Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian.
I was never guessing that shit.
Fair enough. That grossed $419 million, 665,568.
Okay.
Up next is another Disney movie. It's animated, and we've mentioned it already tonight.
Wall-E.
Wall-E.
And Gromit.
Which grossed $521,311,860 doll hairs.
Nice.
Iron Man, we already know, is 8th. That made $585,796,247. 7th place. 7th place, big franchise movie. Big franchise. It's not a good film in the franchise, but it still made all the cash.
Wow. Oh, God. Die Hard 4?
Not Die Hard 4. Much longer going franchise than Die Hard. And this is the second film in a reboot of the franchise.
Rambo?
It's not Rambo. It is Quantum of Solace.
Oh, no.
Yeah, made all the cash. It's a garbage film.
No.
Made all the money at $589,580,482.
Why did you have to remind me that this film exists? It's fucking garbage.
Up next, another one you probably won't guess. I wouldn't. This is another animated movie by Paramount, apparently.
All right.
The only things I know about this film is I didn't know this country was a country until I heard this film come out. And it's got David Schwimmer in it.
David Schwimmer.
And loads of other actors, but he's the only one I know that's in it.
So it's got a company name in the title.
Country name, sorry, in the title. Yeah.
It's got David Schwimmer in it.
And it's a sequel.
And it's a sequel.
And it's animated, obviously.
Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Animated.
Azkaban. Azerbaijan.
Who did David Schwimmer play in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban?
Azerbaijan.
Go on, you tell me.
Dr. Boskonovich. I'm going to be honest with you. I do not know much of David Schwimmer's back catalogue outside of Friends.
Who does?
See, I've watched a couple of things he's directed, but not been in. In fact, I think the only thing I've seen him be in recently, and it wouldn't be on this, was when he played the lawyer in
American Crime Story.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays one of the Kardashians, doesn't he? Robert Kardashian.
Yeah. I don't know. Azerbaijan.
Madagascar escape to Africa.
I'm sorry, you didn't know Madagascar was a country.
Who the fuck knows Madagascar's a country? When they're a
fact
kid.
That it's in Madagascar.
When they're a kid.
It was.
I was 17 in 2008.
I'm looking at you like, God, I can't believe you didn't know that Madagascar exists. I knew it existed, but I could not tell you where it is. I think Southern Hemisphere.
It's Africa.
Is it? Yeah.
It's an island off the coast of Africa.
Southern Hemisphere, I was right, see?
Yeah. Right then, up next is a very popular film adaptation of a stage musical. In 2008, we've already talked about it. You must get this one. We've mentioned exactly one musical tonight.
Hamilton? No,
If you change your mind, I'm the first in line.
Mamma Mia, isn't it?
It's Mamma Mia. Well done.
Here we go again.
Made six. No, that's the sequel. This is the original one. $609,841,637. Very profitable movie.
Oh, shame. Waterloo.
Now, up next is an interesting one in 4th place. Because this is a film that I remember being a big deal when it came out. But in my opinion, I don't think it's stayed in the public consciousness. Right. I certainly do not really ever hear anyone mention it. It's a man who likes to slap people. More recently likes to slap people. And by people, I mean one person on stage in front of everyone.
Oh, blimey. I've just figured that out. Okay. So it's a Will Smith film?
Yes.
Okay.
The 4th highest grossing movie of 2008. But in my opinion, it's not a film that's lived on in the public consciousness.
I'm thinking of this time frame. The only thing I can think of Will Smith is £7.
You think £7? You want to go with £7?
I don't think that's going to be it, though.
It's your choice. Final answer, Mr. Jocelyn?
I can't think of another one right now. I'm going to kick myself.
So I'm right, and it hasn't lived in the public consciousness, because the correct answer is Hancock.
Oh, that was a bit shit.
Yeah, I know.
It had all right bits. It had a good theme, but it didn't pay it off very well.
That made $629,443,428.
Right.
In 3rd place, it's the final animated film on the list by Paramount, apparently. I know very little about this film, because I've never seen it. All I know is it stars a certain gentleman who this year got onto the iTunes charts for a song called Peaches, 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 Peaches. No, that's not an animated film.
Oh shit!
And it's way earlier than this. School of Rock's like 2003.
Oh, I still think that is a new film.
This guy's only in before Super Mario was only in one big animated franchise, which is getting a sequel this year. Actually, apparently. To be fair, animated films would be my weakness in this quiz too.
Yeah. Jumanji was later.
No, and we're talking anime. It's fully animated. There's no live action in it whatsoever.
Over the Hedge?
No.
No.
Kung Fu Panda.
I've never seen that shit.
No, I've never seen it, but...
Why the fuck would I watch Kung Fu Panda?
On to the last two. These are both well-known films.
Yep.
The last one, number one, anyone who didn't get this, I would kill.
What, number one?
But number two, let's do number two first. This might surprise you that this film has got this high of a intake because it is remembered as an absolute disaster of a movie.
Morbius.
But you have to remember it was highly anticipated. It is a sequel, and it's the first sequel they made in this franchise in a long time. There was a big gap between the last movie and this movie, and everyone thought this was going to be a big deal, and then they all saw it and kind of collectively went, eh? What?
I'm guessing this is the Superman film.
It's not a superhero film. Go on, you can do it. 2008. Then after this film, they took another big gap in the franchise and then did another film after another big gap, and that one also had a collective reaction of, eh? And it's like, why did you do these? Why did you do these?
I know it's not Alien because Prometheus was later.
Yeah, that's like 2012.
Yeah, 2012. I think, yeah, about that. It's Indiana Jones, isn't it? And the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
It is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That disaster of a movie made a whopping $790 million, $653,942.
Yeah, they brought in Shia LaBeouf. His character role sucked.
Actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Yep.
Right, you get no hints for this next one because this is the easiest fucking one. What was the highest grossing movie of 2008? Anyone who lived through 2008 and was a film fan and doesn't get this is not a film fan. Highest grossing movie of 2008.
Avatar.
I'm going to turn this microphone so it's sideways straight up your candy ass. Go on.
It'll be The Dark Knight.
It's The Dark Knight,
yeah,
obviously.
Of course it
Yeah.
is.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to say you didn't know it. That made just shy of $1 billion.
Wow.
It made $997 million.
So was that a hit?
Yeah. Just a little. Just a skosh. Just a skosh. Fucking The Dark Knight. Well, Rory, on that quiz, you got a whopping 4 out of 10.
No, I didn't.
You got Wall-E, Mamma Mia, Crystal Skull, and Dark Knight.
Yeah. Did I not get more than that?
I'll give you Iron Man.
Yeah.
I'll be generous, and I'll give you the one I told you. So you got 5 out of 10. Things still are not looking good for you reaching that 70% mark. I hope you're strapping up ready to watch Serendipity again, my friend. Whilst I live free in the knowledge that I will go a whole year without seeing Kill Keith. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back right after these ads to talk about Iron Man. So, Iron Man. I put this one in the list. I put this one in the list for 2 reasons. A, seeing as we've done Man of Steel, which you put in, and that's the opening to the DCEU. I thought it'd be interesting to do the opening to the MCU. But second of all, because I didn't like Iron Man when I first saw it.
Oh, really?
I didn't hate it. It wasn't a film where I was like, this is shit. It was a film where I was like, cool, all right. And it was later films that made the MCU grow on me, not this one.
Right.
And I wanted to see, now that we're living in, at the risk of being one of those downers, let's be honest, we are not living in the peak of the MCU anymore. The MCU is definitely on its downslope. Who knows? Maybe they'll find a way to save it. They are changing their approach to it, where they're going to slow down the release schedule.
Yeah, there was going to be like 3 or 4 releases next year, wasn't there? Then
and
now
that's
there's
just
only one.
Yeah, and they've just fired the main villain Kang because he was beating up women.
Reshoots, then I imagine.
Reshoots, recasting, maybe they're just going to throw the fucking story out and start building to a new villain is a rumor I've heard. They're just going to go, fuck Kang, let's just kill him off screen. They're going to pull a Resident Evil 4, Umbrella died in a stock market. Yeah. Kang got beaten in a stock market crash.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how that beats an interdimensional being, but fine.
It's an interdimensional stock market.
Yeah. But we're definitely not at the peak of the MCU anymore. And I thought it'd be interesting to go back and look at where it began. And I'm going to let you go first, because I don't think you'd ever seen this film before.
No, I had no connection to this film whatsoever.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you
the
your
closest
opinion.
I'd seen, I had seen Iron Man 2 at the cinema. I remember.
Okay.
I can't remember why. I didn't go on my own. I went with someone else, but I cannot remember for the life of me who or why.
And you remember the great line from that film, don't you?
Don't watch this movie.
I want my bud. This is not my bud. I
my
want
bird.
my bud.
I want my bird. The only reason that I agreed to go and see Iron Man 2, because I had zero interest in a superhero movie outside of Batman, was
this someone you were trying to plough?
Here's the thing. It probably was. No, yeah. So I'd seen Iron Man 2, and the only reason that I gave that any credence was because I was with someone who.
To see it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. It probably was a girl, but I can't remember who. But also Mickey Rourke was in it.
Mickey Rourke, Sam Rockwell. It's a great cast, Iron Man 2.
Yeah, well, Mickey Rourke was my main draw because I really like Mickey Rourke.
Well, you like Sam Rockwell, don't you? Moon.
Yeah, I didn't know he was in it though.
Oh, okay.
So that would not have swayed just because I didn't know.
Because that's the interesting thing.
Sam Rockwell is awesome though.
The interesting thing about Iron Man 2 is that although Mickey Rourke is marketed as the main villain is actually Sam Rockwell.
But he doesn't really do much they were warming him up for a sequel.
Yeah, a lot of people have said they're not quite sure why he's never returned in the franchise.
Yeah, it is a bit weird.
I'd be happy if he returned.
I mean, if you've got a problem with Kang at the moment, then just bring in Sam Rockwell.
To be fair, he's not that character is not big enough to be an Avengers level villain. But I'd happily have him in another film as like a solo villain.
Yeah.
But he's not. You can't go from Thanos to Justin Hammer.
Well, not in one go.
Are you suggesting we should just give him insane levels of power?
I mean,
somehow?
I'm going to be honest. Kang was not an interesting villain.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
I wasn't super excited by Kang either.
The problem with the MCU is that most of its characters aren't interesting.
Yeah.
I know it sounds really smug and shit, but honestly, Iron Man was not interesting in Iron Man 2. Right. Having watched this film, he seems way more interesting now.
Yeah. So my biggest takeaway, having come, because I haven't watched this film in a long time, my God, you can tell, going back, you can see the damage Disney did when they bought the franchise.
Yep.
Because I'm not saying that I like the MCU up to the end of Endgame. So I like the entire first saga, the Infinity Saga, as they call it. But so many things get neutered once Disney show up. A driving force of Iron Man is he's an alcoholic.
Yep.
That gets smoothed right the hell out.
Yep.
By Iron Man 2.
Yep.
You kind of get it a bit in Iron Man 2 because you do get the scene where he puts the Iron Man suit on while he's drunk. Now, to be fair, that's because they had already shot Iron Man 2 while the Disney deal was going through.
So some bits still bled through.
Yeah, it's really after Iron Man 2 that the full effect of Disney comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was what it caught my attention in this film, watching it this time, how many things there were that I was like, Disney would not let you do this now. For example, this film is sexy.
Yeah.
It's got sexiness in it. There's a great line right near the beginning. I'm not going to lie, this probably makes me a sick man. But I wrote this down because this sums up Robert Downey Jr.'s charm. And only Downey Jr. could do this. I couldn't do this. If I said this to someone, I'd get slapped with a restraining order. You get a flashback right near the beginning where you see sort of what Tony Stark's life is like. And this reporter, played by Leslie Bibb, comes up to him, and she's like, "Oh, your weapons were shown bombing wherever, blah blah blah. Do you ever lose even an hour? Do you even lose an hour's sleep over that?" And he just goes, "I'm prepared to lose a few with you." And it cuts to him plowing this girl.
Yep.
And then the next day, fucking this is the best film Gwyneth Paltrow has ever been in, by the way. Yeah. Gwyneth Paltrow comes in, and this woman tries to give her a load of sass. Like, "Oh, I think it's sad that you still work for Tony after all these years and you're just an assistant," or something like that.
Yeah, what's her name? Pepper Spray.
Pepper Potts.
Oh,
and she goes, which to be fair, that's from the comics.
Yeah.
Stanley had a habit of giving people alliterative names.
Yeah, I understood that for superheroes, but she wasn't one.
No. And she just turns on and goes, "I do lots of things. I do this, I do that, and I take out the trash." And looks at this girl just like, "You're the trash, by the way."
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, there's an actual... Not adult, necessarily, because it is still a superhero film at the end of the day. But there's some actual humanity here.
There's some heat.
Yeah, that isn't constantly being swiped away.
And also, to be fair,
jokes.
Robert Downey Jr. does have, even though it's like, obviously it's in the script, but he has some heat with Gwyneth Paltrow at certain points when there's the possibility they could be a romantic couple.
Yeah.
But obviously, for whatever reasons, there's that professional separation. Yeah. He pulls away from her actually a couple of times. But yeah, there is some heat in this.
Yeah.
Which is lacking in almost every MCU film.
Yeah.
Because most films, if there's a romance, it has to be filled with that fucking bathos. So, oh god, gotta have romance now, and it's like, it's a bit weird and cheesy. And so stop calling it out. Just enjoy having a romance, a genuine connection in one of your films.
Yeah, Disney sanitized the hell out of all of it.
Yep.
Okay, so this film, it did get referred to as a very standard origin story, and in a sense it is, in the sense of the actual... A problem that happens in a lot of the early Marvel films, and a lot of the early superhero films in general, where they do origin stories, because what you start to notice as superhero genre goes on, they stop doing origin stories. And they start.
Well, the new Batman hasn't bothered at all. But then, to be fair,
you don't need
how many times have we heard about his backstory?
The new Spider-Mans don't. The new Spider-Mans do not do Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben is already dead by the time of the first MCU Spider-Man, because we do not need to see the Uncle Ben storyline again. What they've very cleverly done with the new MCU Spider-Man, which are probably the last few good films in the MCU, although you could argue this is a bad thing given woke culture, basically the lesson that Uncle Ben teaches Spider-Man is actually given to Aunt May. And Aunt May, over the course of the MCU trilogy, she actually dies in the last one.
Right.
The Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe kills her. And it's actually very cool. It's one of the last few things in the MCU that I remember it hitting me emotionally.
Right.
So I was like sitting in the cinema, because Marissa Tomei's a great actress, Willem Dafoe's a great... And do you know what? Tom Holland's good when he's being directed right.
Yeah.
And it's actually done quite well, the way he kills her as well.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where you don't realise straight away that he's got her. You think he's missed her. And then you're like, oh no. And she's like trying to act like everything's fine. And she actually says the great responsibility line instead of Uncle Ben. But, which you could argue that's a bad thing, but whatever. So here's what this suffers from the most, because most of this film is pretty good. The villain is fine until he puts on the Iron Man suit, and then you're like, oh, I've lost all of the Jeff Bridges personality.
Because it's just a suit and his voice.
Yeah. Also, this is the last film, I think, that Jeff Bridges was intelligible in.
Yeah. He basically went... He became... I'm not trying to slag... Jeff Bridges... Yeah. Don't get me wrong, he's a great actor, but after this point, like, I think it started with True Lies. Not True Lies, True Grit. He did that really terrible accent for True Grit.
They carried it on in R.I.P.D.
Yeah.
Carried it on in Seventh Son.
Yeah. I can't remember if he continued it on in Tron Legacy.
That's before True Grit, isn't it?
No, I think it's
in
about...
that 2007 Tron Legacy.
I can't remember.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, but it'd be interesting to see if, because it's around the same sort of time, to see if he, he's a burger, or if you can actually understand a word he says. It sounds really like I'm slagging him off, but honestly, just talk normal.
It's such a weird thing because you're right, Jeff Bridges was a really good actor.
You could understand the words he said, which is important for an actor.
Yeah, and at a certain point, he just, stopped enunciating. You know what, I'm going to be careful because I'm going to feel bad if it turns out that he's actually got some sort of, condition. It's like how people take the piss out of Sylvester Stallone, for his face, and then you're like, he's got Bell's palsy, and it's like, oh, fuck.
I didn't know you had Bell's palsy.
Yeah, this side of his face is sort of paralysed.
Oh, shit.
That's why his mouth is always sort of drooped on one side.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But
he's made it worse with all the plastic surgery he's had, to be fair. But even when he was young, the reason he sort of had that thing where one half of his mouth doesn't move so much, it's because he's got paralysis on that side of his face.
Oh, damn. I didn't know that. That's harsh.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the case with Jeff Bridges. No. I think he put it on. It got him loads of awards for True Grit, which, to be honest, I didn't like that version of True Grit at all.
But we do see that. It's why Al Pacino, after he won for Scent of a Woman, started randomly yelling in all of his films.
Yeah.
Because he went, oh, they finally gave me an Oscar for this shouty performance. It's like, yeah, but Al Pacino, let me tell you how the Oscars work, buddy. I know you're older and wiser than me, but let me tell you. Sometimes this happens. It happened to Jamie Lee Curtis the other year. Sometimes they go, this person hasn't won an Oscar yet, and they really deserve one because they've been in great films. The film they're in this year is not that good, though. Oh, well, we'll give it them anyway, and it's sort of for their whole body of work.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis won for Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's a good film. She is not standout in it.
No.
I like Jamie Lee Curtis. She's a good actress.
She plays her part well, but it's not a part that's an Oscar-winning part.
No, she's been in way better films.
And she's given way better performances.
Yeah, and Pacino was the same, because I'm pretty sure Pacino didn't win for any of the Godfather movies.
No.
And then
Scarface.
No, and then they finally gave it him for Scent of a Woman, and it's like, this is really for the Godfather trilogy. That's really what we're giving you this for.
Yeah.
It's like Leo DiCaprio. From what I've heard, The Revenant is fine, but it's not that good. He's really being given that award for Wolf of Wall Street, Aviator, all that sort of shit.
Oh, he's phenomenal in Aviator.
I've never seen Aviator. I need to see it.
It's a long film.
Of course it is. It's Martin Scorsese, isn't it?
It's
They're all
very long
4 hours long.
But his performance is incredible.
Yeah.
See, that's an incredible performance. And you can understand every word he says. So let's get back to Jeff Bridges. Yeah. He's intelligible in this film.
As Obadiah Stane.
Stane.
First of all, it's Jeff Bridges. 2, he's bold. 3, his name is Obadiah Stane. Was there ever a chance he wasn't the villain in this movie? That's such a villain name.
Yeah. Well,
Obadiah Stane.
Well, the thing that really seals the deal is while I was watching, I sent you a text, didn't I, as soon as it came up. I was like, it's about halfway through the movie. It's the first time you get any look inside Obadiah Stane's house. And it's literally like the final boss, Mr. X, in Streets of Rage. The whole thing is like, that is the template of villain room. And I was like, okay, I'm expecting some ex-cops to come along and try and fight him while he shoots them with a machine gun. That's it's that level of fucking overly maniacal. And I was like, at that point, it's like, he's a villain.
Yeah. So here's what I like about this film. This film moves along at a very good pace.
Yeah.
And it has a very clear 3-act structure.
Yes.
Act 1, we're in the Middle East with Tony Stark having been kidnapped.
Yep. You know what I liked about that part of the film as well? When he's kidnapped, he's been told he has to build them some missiles, and he actually spends that time building the suit to escape. What I really like, and it's something I liked actually in the very first part, though it's relatively brief in that film, of things like This Island Earth, is you see him, even though obviously you don't get the whole ins and outs because it's a bullshit technology, you still get to see him actually build it. You get to see why he's considered such a great tech mogul. Yeah. That's the good part. Instead of something like a lot of these things, this guy's a genius. He's basically they're given the viewpoint of being Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Certainly nowadays, now that Steve Jobs has passed away, it's like anytime they're going, well, this is great tech guru. He's Steve Jobs. So he's just a guy who goes, get that done. Aren't I brilliant?
Yeah.
In this, there's that element where he's in the tank with the others, and he's like, yeah, I just tell people to do stuff.
Yeah.
But when he's captured and he has to build the suit,
he's very smart.
Yeah, and you realise this is a guy who did build the company,
Yeah.
can build a company again.
Yeah.
And I love the intricacy of, because it shows a certain level of, I suppose, integrity.
Yeah.
And respecting your audience.
Yeah.
That you've gone, well, I want you to believe this guy is real, and then they have to actually build the props he's using to like create the suit.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love seeing that sort of this guy building towards a creation. It's it's a beautiful moment.
I really like, to be honest, I know most people wouldn't want this, obviously. I could have had a whole film of him in that cave with Jensen.
Yep.
Trying to survive. I really like how ragged. I like the fact that the first suit he builds is not the sleek, shiny, glossy Iron Man suit that
It's
he
just
comes
made
to
out
have.
of the bits he can
It
get.
looks like shit,
Yeah.
but it also looks kind of cool.
Well, it's because it's huge, isn't it? It's oversized because
and
it's
clunky as hell.
Yeah.
Like, he's not very mobile in it, is he? Like, at one point, he overswings and gets his arm stuck in the wall.
Yeah, it jams, doesn't
and then
it?
he's trying to, like, wrench it back out. Because Tony Stark's a tough character to get right, because on the face of it, he is nerd wish fulfillment. This is a man who is rich, good-looking, charming, witty, and a genius.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's OP,
incredibly
isn't it?
That's OP. That is OP. Now, one thing, because I know you've not seen a lot of the MCU, one thing the MCU gets right, and I will fight for its right for this all the time, is the entire Tony Stark arc throughout the whole MCU.
The Tony arc.
Yeah. Is largely dealing with the fact that at one point he was a bad guy. Right. He was a weapons manufacturer who was just ignoring the fact that the weapons he made were being sold on both sides.
Yep.
And were killing a lot of innocent people. And all these ghosts come back to bite him. Scarlet Witch is created thanks to a Tony Stark thing. Ultron is created by Tony Stark, and it goes wrong. So Ultron is like an overcorrection on Tony Stark's part, because he's so desperate to like make up for all of his past sins and things like that. And this is after the first Avengers, so he's seen that there's aliens out there and shit now. He decides, well, what we need is basically an army of Iron Man. But obviously you can't put that many humans in Iron Man suits. What if we had an AI that controlled them?
Yeah.
And he builds Ultron. Not thinking, because he's so desperate to save everyone, not thinking about the various ramifications that can happen when you build an AI that sounds like James Spader.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't going to turn evil.
Yep. Having said that, you have Vision.
He doesn't build Vision.
Does he not?
Ultron builds Vision.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah, Ultron builds Vision because Ultron wants a human body. He doesn't want to be metal. He wants to be a living creature.
Right.
And that does not go well for him.
So, I know this is a stupid sidebar.
Yeah, that's fine.
But there was a game on the Mega Drive, I believe, which was a fighting game where you could play as Iron Man or Vision. And when you selected their characters on the character select screen, being it was a Mega Drive, it would tell you their names audibly, but like the audio chip, the sound was
like,
yeah. So when you selected Vision, no, you go Vision, right? And but when you select Iron Man, he's called the Incredible Iron Man.
Incredible, not invincible. Because it's Incredible Hulk.
Right, so it might be the Invincible Iron Man. But either way, it's because of how garbled the sound is, it sounds like he says "good at ironing, man." And also, Vision sounds, because of the farty sound at the beginning, it sounds more like pigeon. So it sounds like you're playing as Pigeon, good at ironing, man. And I'm like, I want this superhero duo.
Yeah.
Can someone out there make me a short comic of that incredible crime fighting duo?
Fucking hell. So he's been taken captive by a group called the Ten Rings.
Yep.
And
10 rings in hand.
Yeah.
Sorry.
7 rings in hand, isn't it?
Sorry, yeah, and let's cut that. That's more VGMP.
And
start again, because I wrote that.
So he's held prisoner by the Ten Rings, which is a terrorist organization who come back in some of the later films. The guy, I don't know the name of the actor who's leading them, but he's pretty good at being a bad guy.
I've seen him
the
in
bold
something before,
guy. I've
yeah.
definitely seen him in something before, and he's just got a look on his face where he just looks sinister. Like, he's really good at just, like, the way he just looks. The bit where he threatens to drop the hot coal on Jensen.
Oh, you can tell, you believe he's going to do it.
Yeah, and Iron Man's like, wait, I need him, don't do it, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I love when he first gets rescued and he goes back to America. I love when he does the, the press conference, and he's like, he gets the cheeseburgers on the way, doesn't he? He walks into the press conference with the cheeseburger, and he just sits down, and he gets all the reporters to sit down as well.
Right, so that guy's Farron Tahir.
But yeah, so when Tony gets back to America, he turns around and goes, right, we're not making weapons anymore, which causes his friends to not be happy. Now, Terrence Howard's in this film, and very famously, Terrence Howard is only in this film, and is then replaced by Don Cheadle for the rest of the franchise. Now, the circumstances of that are not 100% clear, but I believe, from everything I've read, Terrence Howard's... I don't think Robert Downey Jr. has ever commented on what went down. What Terrence Howard has said, I think, is that basically no one was paid a lot for the first one because they didn't know it was going to be a success. Then for the second one, RDJ got a massive pay rise and didn't fight for Terrence Howard to get one too, but they're supposed to be friends outside of Iron Man.
Right.
And he felt, all I know is basically in interviews he said he felt personally betrayed by Robert Downey Jr. and felt that Downey Jr. didn't support him.
Right.
He left, I'm not going to lie, I prefer Don Cheadle as this role to Terrence Howard anyway.
I thought he did a good job in this film.
He's fine. He doesn't have the sense of humour Cheadle's got.
No, he plays it very seriously.
Yeah, Cheadle's got great comedic chops. I've seen him in a few things where he's very funny.
Yeah.
Don Cheadle. But Terrence Howard is fine. He does a decent enough job. Like you say, he's quite self-serious. I like Gwyneth Paltrow in this, and I do not often like Gwyneth Paltrow. She's pretty good in this. She's not unbearable anyway.
I have to say, I felt she was acting. I've never been particularly sold on Gwyneth Paltrow in a film. I can't think of anything where I'd be like, she stole the show.
She blew me away. Yeah. I do like the scene, though, where she goes in to try and steal the data from Obadiah Stane's office. Like, this is a time where the MCU still know how to do suspense.
Yes.
And he walks in and catches her. Because certainly definitely by Phase 4, and to be honest, possibly even earlier than that, they have lost... There's just no tension in these movies at all.
No. They're cookie cutter. They're cookie cutter.
Yeah. So it was nice to see that. So what's weird, going back to this film, is how calm it feels. It's not...
It doesn't feel like it's rushing.
It doesn't feel like a product.
No.
It's not a cameo fest, which post-Avengers Endgame, they've all become cameo fests. They've all become, how much fan service can we cram into this film?
Yeah.
Because we want this scene to go viral on TikTok. We want this scene to go viral on Twitter. We want memes about this, and this.
Well, the only fan service in it is Stan Lee.
Yeah, and to be fair, that's been standard since the Raimi Spider-Man films.
Yeah.
Every fucking Marvel movie near enough has got a Stan Lee cameo in it.
Yep.
Right down to the point where, like, even in Spider-Man No Way Home, I think is the newest one, they literally do the meme where Willem Dafoe near enough looks at the camera and goes, you know I'm something of a scientist myself. And he might as well fucking wink at the audience and nudge him and be like, hey, I did the line. And I won't lie, I'm part of the problem, because in the cinema I laughed.
Yeah.
He did it, and I laughed, and then immediately rolled my eyes and was like, God damn.
They got me.
I can't believe they did
really
that. I
got
knew
me.
they were going to do it, and I can't believe they did it.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm saying. They've all just become cameo fests.
Yeah.
Which takes away from what makes the Avengers movies special. What made them special was you only got an Avengers movie once every few years, and in between it was all solo movies.
See, they would have been better off continuing that trend where you had solo movies that actually had meaningful plots that would, and then the Avengers can be dumb and shit.
Yeah,
it doesn't
make
really
them
matter
more
because
character studies for the solo films.
Yeah.
And then just have your big, dumb, explosive, jokey action movies as your Avengers films.
Yeah, because then they're special as well. I'll be honest, I don't see why people are so overblown by Avengers movies now, when I'm like, well, every single MCU movie is like this.
This thing, they're not special anymore.
Yeah.
The first time they were special, because it was the first time anything like that had ever really been done.
Yep.
Infinity War was kind of special because it was the biggest it had ever been done.
Yeah. Civil War was important because it was two heroes going at each
and
other.
Civil War's legitimately a great film. I don't care what anyone says. Civil War's brilliant. It's some of the best acting in the MCU. When Iron Man realizes that Winter Soldier killed his mum, Downey Jr. is pitch perfect in that performance.
Yeah.
And what's so funny is that came out about 1 month after Batman v Superman, and they played the trailer for Civil War during Batman v Superman, and the trailer for Civil War was more emotionally affecting than the actual film of Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, of course it is. You've built to this point.
Yeah, Batman v Superman was like, hey,
Two
it's the
films
Justice
in.
League in the second movie.
Yeah. Whereas this, like, it's not a world-ending threat. There's no sky laser like there was in Man of Steel.
No.
This is... It's a businessman. Let's say Obadiah Stane wins for a minute.
Yeah.
He's not conquering the fucking world, is he?
No, he's just
gonna
running the
continue.
business.
He's just going to continue to sell weapons to terrorists.
Yeah.
Which is still bad, but it's not, I'm going to conquer the world or I'm going to snap half of life out of existence.
Yeah, Man of Steel, it was literally the world was going to end.
On the first film.
On the first film. And not only was the world going to end, the way to save the world was to destroy the entirety of Metropolis and Smallville in a big fight between you and lots of alien monsters.
Yeah.
And you're like, and then it's like, but we'll go up from here.
Yeah.
Where?
And
where are you driving
And
to?
do you know what I like about this as well? The method of the villain's defeat is set up earlier in the film, and the villain is defeated by his own hubris.
Yeah.
I love that bit. This is the bit I did like even back when I saw this, and I didn't like it too much the first time, is when they fly up and he's like, my suit is superior. And yeah, okay, forget the fact that, Tony's been working on this suit for ages and this guy's had, like, a week to work on his?
Yeah, he's rebuilt a prototype
and made it better, supposedly.
And somehow made it so... But yeah, you're right, because it's to do with the freezing, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, so you fixed the icing problem. What icing problem? Ding.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah.
Because it was clearly set up earlier in the film, because Iron Man nearly dies flying the suit too high.
Yeah.
And the villain falls for it because of his own hubris. Yeah. His own, well, I don't need Stark anyway, I'm better. Blah, blah,
I can
I've
figure
run
out
the
all
company.
He'd already figured out the knots, but Obadiah assumed he didn't need Stark to figure out those knots.
Yeah. And I must admit, I do love the line when he just loses it at the scientists when they're like, we can't make the arc reactor small. And he's like, Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps. Yeah. And the guy just goes, I'm not Tony Stark.
Yeah. The only thing that would have improved that scene is if he killed that guy. Because
that guy comes back.
Yeah, I found that a bit of a problem in that scene, though, because it left it on a bit of a bum note. I'm like, well, the villain would kill him.
Yeah. So what they then reveal...
But I did like that, because it is right. They're sitting there going, well, this is scientifically impossible at this stage. We don't have the materials. And he's just like, for fuck... And they never call that out enough in films sometimes. Yeah. And I like that.
And it also makes Obadiah not that evil, as in not a Thanos-level evil, because Obadiah would not go and try and kill Tony, i.e. steal the arc reactor, if the scientist... Because what Obadiah clearly wants is for the scientist to figure it out, to make the arc reactor small and power it.
Yeah.
But because he says, I can't do it, he has to go and steal the one from Tony's chest.
Something else I want to bring up, actually, something that I thought was a really cool idea. Whether or not it's real or not is another thing, but Obadiah has a particular weapon or tool to his advantage.
Oh, the sound paralysis thing.
The sound paralysis. That's really creepy. Like, you just sit in there, boop, like that, and you're just basically frozen, and you get all the blood vessels go to the surface. They look bruised. It's a really good effect, and he's got the little earpieces on, and then he just talks bullshit, whatever. But those scenes are well done anyway.
Yeah.
But that weapon is so terrifying, and I'm like, that is something that conceivably someone could build. Like, obviously the earpieces he's wearing are to block out the sound frequency he's generating. I thought that was a really cool way of freezing people in place to get those, like, monologue scenes. Yeah. But without making it forced.
My only problem with it, and I'll accept it because it's one of those film things, it's not an MCU problem, it's all films get this sort of problem. He says earlier on that thing freezes you for 15 minutes, right? Yeah. Tony Stark would be dead because he can't survive 15 minutes without his arc reactor in his chest.
That's true.
So you either have to accept that he waits 15 minutes and then gets some movement back and manages to get to the basement, or he just somehow is able to overcome it mentally and get down there. It is on kind of the same level as like Bruce Wayne getting his broken back fixed by someone punching the discs back into place.
I do get that.
He does it in, have you ever played Batman Arkham Asylum?
It would have been better if it was a shorter time frame, so it was somewhat more believable.
You played Arkham Asylum?
No.
So Arkham Asylum's a very good game, except for one really stupid bit right near the end where basically, Venom, the thing that makes Bane huge.
Yep.
Joker's got a bunch of that, but he's like modified it into something called Titan that turns people into big, huge Bane-style monsters. He injects
himself, doesn't he?
He injects Batman first.
Oh.
Batman doesn't have any cures or anything through... This is the most sucking Batman's dick you have ever heard. Through sheer force of will, Batman resists changing. You're like, no, this is not a force of will thing, Batman.
It's biological.
This is a physical, biological thing. That's like someone in Resident Evil getting injected with the G-Virus, like William Birkin with the G-Virus, and just going, no, I'm not going to be a big mindless monster. Yeah. I'm just going to walk around being human. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I'm alright, actually.
I'm alright, yeah.
I'll just be a carrier, whatever.
Yeah, it's
you
like,
don't get to make that decision. Yeah.
Yeah, so... It's that sort of thing, but it doesn't ruin the film, and I can accept it. Tony, I like when the little robot arm helps him get the.
Yeah.
They've done a good job of anthropomorphizing the robot arm.
Yeah.
Like I love earlier on when he's like, "Don't spray me. If you spray me again, I'll decommission you."
And then there's that bit towards the end of that sequence where he does spray him anyway.
After he crashes. Yeah. But it doesn't do it straight away, does it? There's like a beat, and then it just goes. And I think he just goes, yeah, that's about right.
That was funny.
Did you know who the voice of Jarvis is, by the way? You know his computer who's in his suit.
It's the same person who plays Vision.
Who's like 10% power, so yeah, it's Paul Bettany.
Yeah, because that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't know you knew that bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he eventually uploads him into the Vision's body, yeah.
I know Paul Bettany because he was in that series Killing It.
Right. Killing It or Killer Net?
Killer Net.
Killer Net.
Yeah, it's...
Why are you killing a net?
It's
what did she ever do to you?
I was caught in caught in a net. Anyway, I was only joking. He's obviously also in that film Wimbledon.
Yes, with Keira Knightley, right?
Yeah. To be fair, I haven't seen that film either. I have seen him, however, legitimately.
Big Short?
No. Maybe.
He's in Big Short.
But I remember him mostly from A Knight's Tale.
Oh, is he in A Knight's Tale?
Yeah.
With Heath Ledger?
Yeah, he's Chaucer.
Oh, I've never seen Knight's Tale.
Yeah, it's actually good.
Oh, yeah.
The costume design is stupid, but other than that, it's good. It's got the guy who plays Steve the Pirate in Dodgeball.
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah. Which is great for him, because, like, he plays the two girls at once.
You've made this joke every time I mention Alan Tudyk.
I'm drunk.
You just repeat it. You've had 2 drinks, Rory.
I've had 6.
You have not had 6.
And also, one of them was huge.
3. You've had 3. You had 2 apples and one of my regulars.
Yeah, but
you got to drink way more if we're seeing the new year in, Rory. Anywho. I don't think I've got too much more I want to say about Iron Man 1, to be honest. It's not a super deep film. Doesn't need to be. It's a superhero movie. It was just nice. It was really nice to go back in this age where we are oversaturated with superhero films now.
Yeah.
And they've all become very cynical, very cookie cutter, very paint by numbers is the term I would use.
Yeah.
It was nice to go back to one and be like, oh, this isn't a world-ending thing. It's just a simple film about one guy and how he becomes Iron Man. There's not even too much Iron Manning in it.
Yeah.
Really, I checked. You're a full hour into the film before he builds the first Iron Man suit,
and that prototype.
No, the first sleek, shiny one,
right?
But not the one before he paints it red and yellow. So that's not the iconic Iron Man suit. I think he only wears the iconic one twice, isn't it? It's when he goes to the Middle East, and fights the tank and whatnot. And that's got some great cinematography in it. Actually, I'd forgotten how good some of the cinematography in that was.
This is a beautiful looking film. There's a couple of dodgy CGI elements, but you know what? For 2008, I'll take it.
I was surprised how much of the CGI is still good.
Yeah.
I think I saw 2 bits where I was like, that's bad. And it was mostly when it was him getting the suit put on him.
Yeah.
When he stood there and all the machines like putting it on piece by piece, that looks bad.
Yeah, like when he's hovering in midair and it's sticking bits on him, yeah. The motion just doesn't look right. But compared to 5 years later, they do Man of Steel. Yeah. And there's the bit where he hops over a flake, like he's on the oil rig, and he jumps over to hold up the falling thing, and that looks such a floaty jump and everything. You're like, what the hell have you done? And to be fair, everything Man of Steel looks garbage.
Yeah.
Whereas almost everything in this looks good, bar a couple of bits of CGI. I'm like, you know what, I'll take that.
Yeah, it's aged well.
Yeah. I've never seen this film before, as I say. I enjoyed it. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed this film. Robert Downey Jr. is electric in it.
Yeah. They are never going to replace him. Honestly, the MCU has lost something once he leaves.
He's left, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. After he's gone. We've now had a load of films after he's done. And don't get me wrong, there's other very good people in Avengers. Chris Hemsworth's a great actor.
Yeah.
Chris Evans is a really good actor when he's on point. I've seen him be bad in some things, but when he's on point, he's really good. But losing Robert Downey Jr.
It was kind of weird as well, because Robert Downey Jr., he'd had a bit of a rough ride, hadn't he? Because he'd done...
They took a big gamble on him for this.
Yeah.
John Favreau has said in interviews before, if Disney had already owned Marvel at this point, it would not have been RDJ.
No.
Disney would not have allowed it.
Yeah. Because he'd been in prison.
He'd been in prison for drugs.
Yeah. But... I'll tell you what, he was absolutely the right person for it.
100%.
And obviously he was clean by this point. He'd served his time, he'd come out, so you know what.
Yeah, but I think that the worry is with...
Disney is just like, we have a family-friendly image to uphold.
Yeah, and the worry is that celebrities, once you give them loads of money, is that they'll relapse. Because it's like, here's loads of money to go buy drugs, but he hasn't so far, touch wood.
Yeah, from what we can tell, he doesn't seem to. He seems to be pretty much on point.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, of course,
And to be fair, his performance is exceptional.
Yeah, and he's always good in all. Even when these films start to dip a bit, he's always a highlight in them.
Yeah.
He's in the 3 Iron Men, obviously. He's in all the Avengers movies. He's in Civil War, and he's in the.
Isn't Civil War an Avengers movie?
No, that's Captain America 3.
Oh, okay.
But this is the thing. It may as well be called Avengers Civil War.
Right.
The only reason I think they call it Captain America is because although it has got loads of them in, the main crux of that story is Captain America and the Winter Soldier and their relationship.
Right.
Which actually works quite well, to be fair.
Okay.
And then he is in the first Spider-Man. And oh God, is he in the second one? No, I'm pretty sure he isn't in the second one. So he's in a good few.
Yeah.
Oh, he has a little cameo in Incredible Hulk, but it's like a 2-second thing.
Yeah.
So he's in quite a few of these. He really was a linchpin to it, that they all sort of built the world around him. And the problem is you've now taken that linchpin out.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you've not just lost him, you've actually lost several of the original Avengers. Scarlett Johansson's gone.
Yep.
Chris Evans is gone. They write him out of the films.
Yep.
Hawkeye's still floating around, but
he's been in an accident.
We don't know if he'll be coming back, because we don't know if his health will allow him to come back.
Yeah, I feel so sorry for that guy. Jesus.
Chris Hemsworth has said he might be stepping back soon,
Yep.
because he's fair play. He's played Thor for a long time, and it's not easy to play Thor because you have to stay in ridiculously
Apart
good
from that
shape.
one film where he was fat.
Yeah, but even then, he's buff as fuck under the fat suit.
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah. Oh, is it a fat suit?
Yeah, it's a fat suit. He didn't actually get fat.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
No, it's a fat suit. I think the only one who is still like fully on board is Mark Ruffalo, and he's the one they can't do a solo film with.
Yeah.
He's just happy to be there.
Yeah. Mark Ruffalo is like, if he's basically I'm not sure if he was before, but he seems to be someone who's such a big nerdy fan of Avengers that is somehow in it.
Yeah.
And when you see him in interviews talking to the other Avenger actors, people are like, dude, you realise you're one of them, right?
Yeah,
it's like he's like a fan talking to his idols, and it's like, dude, you're one of them.
I feel with Mark Ruffalo, because I've seen him do this in all the films he's in, I think he's just like a real excited puppy.
Yeah.
Who just can never believe that he's in films of any kind, not just Avengers.
Yeah.
I think he sits there and he's like, oh my God, I'm in Now You See Me Too, which is a garbage movie. But he's like, oh, I'm in it.
Yeah.
This
He's
is
also,
so cool.
He's in Collateral as well.
Yeah, he's
the
the
cop.
detective. Yeah. Zodiac. He's in Zodiac, so he's worked with RDJ before.
Yeah.
Because they're in Zodiac together, along with Jake Gyllenhaal, who also joined the MCU. He's Mysterio in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
He's good. He's good in it, Jake Gyllenhaal is.
I'll tell you why it doesn't count.
I'd rather it be Bruce Campbell, but...
Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. So someone who does not like superhero films, generally speaking, you've got the odd one you like Dark Knight and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man and stuff.
This one is much more acceptable.
This and Man of Steel, which is the better at starting a franchise?
Christ.
No, not as an individual film, but looking at it as, right, this is we're going to launch a franchise from here.
I mean, it's essentially
which one
the same
does a
question
better
as
job?
I'll be honest, it's the same question as which one's better.
Right.
Which is Iron Man, by a long country mile. The reason being, it's not... When we discussed Man of Steel, one of its biggest problems is you do not understand where the hell the plot is going and why. Like, we got to the point where he's at the ice, and we're like...
How did he get here?
Yeah,
What's
why is
happening?
he here now? How did we get... Why are we following... Why is she here?
When did this big spaceship turn up?
Yeah, like... Why didn't he send any other fucking Kryptonians if they're going to send a ship this big?
Yeah.
You know, there's so many questions. The plot is garbage and makes no sense. Iron Man, because it's trying to tell a smaller story, you wind up... But it obviously it sets itself up for a sequel in the fact that it doesn't kill the main character.
Yeah, and you've got the post-credit scene where Nick Fury turns up.
Yeah. But even without that, like...
And Agent Coulson, obviously, is part of S.H.I.E.L.D.
But you get this nice warming up of, here's at least one character you can follow. So there will be at least an Iron Man 2. Yeah. He's, charismatic. It sets him up well. But the story's just really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, it's not something where you're going to be like, oh, this challenges Hollywood in every single way. It's a popcorn flick at the end of the day. But it is a popcorn flick that works. And you kind of go... It's one of those films when they go, oh, there's a sequel. You're like, okay, cool, I'm happy to see more.
Yeah.
Whereas with Man of Steel, it's so bad.
It's very funny, isn't it?
When they go, oh, we're going to make more of these, you're like, but why? Yeah. It's like Avatar. And to be fair, the difference between Avatar and Man of Steel is Avatar at least looks good.
Yeah.
Like, visually looks good. Man of Steel doesn't.
Looks muddy,
but at the same time, when they're like, oh, we're doing 5 Avatars, you're like, why bother?
Yeah.
The first film didn't have anywhere near enough story or character to drive sequels. Yeah. Now we're at the point, like, again, like with this, there is enough character to drive a sequel.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to guess or tell you where it goes because I don't know comic books that well.
No.
But I'm at least intrigued.
Yeah.
Man of Steel...
It falters, to be fair, with Iron Man 2. But Iron Man 3 I like. Iron Man 3 comes back swinging.
So, I have an alternate question for you.
Okay.
Obviously, this is better than Man of Steel in pretty much every single facet.
I did just want to say, isn't it funny, in 2008 we got adaptations of the 2 billionaire superheroes, and they're very different, because obviously Batman is very moody, very self-serious, whereas Tony Stark quite likes being Iron Man, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas Batman, you always feel like it's a chore, like it's a thing he has to do.
Yeah.
Whereas Iron Man's just like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. Dark Knight is a better film than this.
Yeah.
It's because it's got more... There's just a bit more meat to it. But that being said, my question for you is, obviously Iron Man is a better film overall, etc. Is there anything you think Man of Steel does better than Iron Man? No matter how small that thing may be.
The villain has a cooler costume.
What, Zod?
I like Zod's armor. Which he then takes off and just has basically a Superman thing on underneath. And I'm like, why? I liked your big bulky armor thing. It made you look more intimidating.
Yeah.
To be honest, there's not much. I think I prefer the soundtrack to Iron Man.
Yep.
I prefer how colourful Iron Man is.
Yep.
I'm not a fan of Superman anyway.
No.
I wasn't a fan of Iron Man as a character going into this.
No.
I'd seen the Iron Man cartoons as a kid.
This interpretation is the only thing of Iron Man that I found interesting.
Yeah. I can't think of anything in Man of Steel that I preferred.
I can't think
except
of anything.
for, like, Zod's costume is slightly better than just a giant Iron Man suit. But even then, I tell you what shot I really like, by the way, is when Obadiah Stane first gets revealed in the suit, and it's Pepper Potts looking into the darkness through all those chains, and just the two eyes light up, and then lift up so you see how tall it is. Okay, so I just want to end on the ending of the film, which obviously doesn't seem like a big deal now, but was a big deal at the time for superhero films, because traditionally up to that point, superheroes always had a secret identity. That was the standard. And Marvel, and in the comics, Tony Stark has a secret identity.
Oh, does he? I did wonder if that was accurate or not.
In the movies, they decided to do a bit of a bold choice, which was, fuck it, we're not doing secret identities.
Yeah, which is interesting because they set up the secret identity element, don't they?
Yeah. And then he just says, and it's a great, and I'm going to spoil it, but you don't care. His last words in the franchise are, I am Iron Man.
Right.
So he ends his first film with, I am Iron Man. And his very last words are, I am Iron Man. And then he snaps his fingers to kill Thanos.
Right.
But it's delivered. Obviously, in this first one, it's kind of that cheeky sort of, he's showing off to the press, and he's sort of, I am Iron Man. When he's doing it to Thanos, he knows he's going to die.
Yeah.
And a big part of... So when he first meets Captain America in the first Avengers, Captain America derides Tony Stark by saying to him, you're a fine guy, like, you know, you're not a terrible person, but you're never going to be the guy who makes the sacrifice.
Right.
You're not that big of a team player. You're not the person who would... And he does.
You'll
Tony
basically save yourself before anyone else. Yeah.
And he ends up doing that.
Yeah.
And it is a great piece. You know, we were talking in Dirty Dancing about Jerry Orbach acting with his face.
Yeah.
Same thing, Tony Stark. He gets the glove, he's got the stones, and he's looking, and you see all these different emotions go across his face, from doubt, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this because I want to... Because at the end of the day, he will always have a selfish component to his nature. That's who Tony Stark is. Fear, sadness, loss, and then a little bit of triumph over Thanos. I am Iron Man. Snap. It's great. I love the end of Endgame. Endgame has flaws. Love the ending. The ending is amazing. Cried my eyes out. Cried my eyes out in the cinema. This does cause them a little bit of a problem later on. Not much, because in the comics, the Civil War storyline actually starts over secret identities. In the Civil War, I don't know much about comics, but I do know the Civil War storyline. Basically, the government make it illegal for superheroes to have secret identities.
Right.
They say, look, fine, we'll let you be vigilantes because we can't stop you. But you cannot have secret identities because... Basically, there's some heroes who accidentally kill a bunch of people in collateral damage, and then the government can't prosecute them because they don't know who they are. But these heroes committed manslaughter.
Right.
And basically, Iron Man and a few other heroes go, yes, we agree, and they all come out. But Captain America, Spider-Man, and a few others are like, no, we're not doing that. We're not giving away our secret identities because that basically opens us up to blackmail from the government. Yeah. They altered it slightly for the film Civil War because none of them have secret identities.
Yeah.
So they altered it slightly where it still is about collateral damage, which I liked because... You've seen the first Avengers, haven't you?
Yeah, there's so much collateral damage.
So they destroy a lot of New York, still not as much as they destroyed of Metropolis in Man of Steel, even though there's an entire invading army.
Yeah.
But whatever, they cause a lot of collateral damage. They cause a lot of collateral damage in Age of Ultron as well. Basically, in Civil War, the government turn up and they're like... The government go, the collateral damage is unacceptable, but we recognise that we need the Avengers because... aliens are now canon in this universe and monsters and things like that. But we think you should be under government control, like the CIA or the FBI.
Yeah.
We decide when you go in, and
We deploy you.
And Iron Man agrees to it and goes, yes, I think we can't rule ourselves. We've proven that because collateral damage. But Captain America makes the argument, but the US government is not guilt-free. And what if there's somewhere where we really should go and help, but because it's a country the US doesn't get on with, like say it's Russia, Russia needs help
from aliens, and America goes.
America like, but we want Russia to fall.
Yeah.
So they don't let the Avengers go.
Yeah.
And at what Civil War, I'll give them credit for this. What Civil War does well that Batman v Superman does not is you can see both sides of the argument in Civil War. There is justification to be on both Cap and Iron Man's side. Yeah. Whereas in Batman v Superman, you're just like, Bruce Wayne, you're being a bit of a cunt.
Yeah.
Like, you're just being a bit of a... Basically, Bruce Wayne, you hate him because you're a racist.
Right.
Basically.
Because he's an alien.
Basically, yes. And yeah, the collateral damage thing as well. But it's literally... Batman is no different in that from the army were at the end of Man of Steel, where they're like, well, what if one day you turn on us like Zod? Batman's just like that. He's like, well, I'm not prepared to take the chance if you do turn on us, so you've got to die. It's just not the same.
But they do share a connection. And
Martha! Why did you say that name?
Such a shit film.
Oh, just wait till we get to it.
A long time away.
Director's cut, baby.
We've done 2 superhero movies.
Well, I'm spreading the superhero films out just like we are with the, the Resident Evil films in VGMP. Because there's so many of them to get through.
Sure.
I'm spreading them out to like 2 per season.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, I haven't got anything else to say. You got anything else to say?
Not really. I enjoyed this film. I would watch again.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. We really appreciate it. Please do like, subscribe, etc., all of the usual stuff. You can also listen to our other show, VGMP, the Video Game Movie Podcast, which releases every Saturday. There we talk about video game-based movies. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Jamie, most of those films are garbage. And you'd be right. You'd be right. Most of them are, but you might be surprised to know that there's a few of them, just a few,
actually,
that are pretty good.
The second highest result for a film is we both fully recommend it.
Yes, but what's the difference? What is the drop down from both hated it? Because haven't I recommended 15, I think?
Yeah.
Out of how many have we done? 60-something? See?
Yeah, but not all of the other ones were a double no.
No, but your taste is garbage. You can also listen to Haunted, the audio drama, if you'd like. That releases every Sunday with previews on Wednesday. That is a full cast audio drama, so it's a narrative thing. It's sort of an X-Files meets Doctor Who type thing. It's a long-running storyline mixed with Monster of the Week episodes. And it's got a little bit of everything. It's got a little bit of horror, a little bit of action, a little bit of comedy, even a little bit of romance. And we're pretty proud of it, and it's doing pretty well, touch wood. So please do go and give that a listen if you'd like. And in the meantime, have a lovely few days, and we will see you next time on Second Take Cinema.